On role of translanguaging in multilingual English medium teacher training context at Pasdunrata National College of Education. So this is the outline of my presentation. So first I will have a small introduction about my institution and the courses we are having there, and then the objectives of my study, then the methodology. Next, I will talk about the sample, data collection methods and instruments, and also data analysis, findings, conclusions, and recommendations. So some of you may know about colleges of education, and there may be some others who don't know. So they are initially established for teacher education, and Pasdunrata is specially initiated for English teacher training program. So earlier, at the very beginning, in early stages, there were only English teacher training programs, government-funded institutions. But later on, we started some other teacher training courses as well. So during 2007 onwards, I suppose, we are having English programs as well as other courses. So these days we have our major course is English teacher training. At the same time, we have ICT teacher education program, and also we have primary education teacher training program as well. So we have 3 courses. So our students stay inside for 2 years. It's a 3 years teacher training course, colleges of education. So it's a residential course for 2 years. And even in the 3rd year, we send them to close by schools, and they are completing their internship. So altogether, our student teachers complete 3 years of teacher training diploma. So they will be given national diploma in teaching English, national diploma in teaching ICT, like that. So my main focus is identifying the implications of translanguaging in multilingual teacher education context at PNCOE. As we recruit students from all 9 provinces of the country, we have a huge diversity. Especially after we started this ICT course, about 50, sometimes more than 50 students come from Jaffna, Muttur, Ampara, lot of students. So we have ethnic, religious, and language diversity in our institution. So they all stay together in dormitories. We mix them. We do not separate. So all Muslim, Tamils, and Sinhalese students stay in the same dormitory, and they study in the same classroom. So that is the situation. Then as our English students, they are going to teach English in the school system. We encourage target language policy. That is, we encourage them to use English always. Talk to each other in English, and our lecturers also deal with them in English most of the time. So target language policies encourage within the college context. Even in ICT course, they are supposed to teach in English medium. Therefore, they are also following English medium, and target language policy is encouraged. But here in my study, I am going to find out translanguaging, whether it would be an alternative for the target language policy. I will discuss the reasons later. So these are the 3 objectives of my study. I wanted to explore the implications of translanguaging on student-teacher identities at PNCOE, to examine whether translanguaging would be a better alternative than target language for the student teachers to perform their role. And the third one, to identify the role of dominant mother tongue, that is Sinhala. Majority of the students are Sinhalese, so they speak Sinhala. Even though we encourage target language policy most of the time, even when we assign them group work, they started the discussion in English, but later on they move on to their mother tongue. So the dominant mother tongue is Sinhala. And non-dominant mother tongue, that is all Muslims and Tamils speak non-dominant mother tongue. So in this study, I wanted to identify the power dynamics, how power exercised by these students without knowing. Most of them do not know that they are exercising power and language, but still power dynamics were there, and I wanted to study about that as well. So here I have included 3 quotations. I'm not going to read all these 3 quotations. You all can see them. But I will pay your attention on these highlighted words. So Garcia and Weil talked a lot about translanguaging. So they say that translanguaging enables us as speakers to go beyond traditional academic disciplines and conventional structures to gain new understandings of human relations. I stress the word human relations, and generate more just social structures and liberating the voices of the oppressed. I stress that word, that phrase as well, liberating the voices of the oppressed. According to Garcia and all, translanguaging creates fluid space for the interlocutors to shuttle between the languages, that is moving in between languages. And the third quotation out of my literature, I selected only 3. It is about not translanguaging, it is about positioning. So Foucault, 1980, claimed that the self is not fixed. That is, your identity is not fixed, but is something which is positioned and repositioned through your discourse. Discourse is language in action. So the language you speak, the way you speak, and how many languages you speak, all these things affect your positioning. In your early 20s, you may have one sort of positioning yourself. In 30s, 40s, and even in 50s, you may change your positioning and your identity. So I wanted to analyze how this identity creation and repositioning takes place through the process of translanguaging. So I used qualitative research design because I wanted to do in-depth analysis, as I wanted to find out information regarding positioning, identity creation, as well as power dynamics. Therefore, I use qualitative data collection.
You have 3 more minutes.
All right. Okay. So then this is my data collection method. I use class observations, focus group discussion, semi-structured interviews, and interviews with students and teachers, lecturers. So in data analysis, I use context analysis, coding systems, and content analysis. So my findings, I would like to pay your attention. One Tamil girl, I have taken her original words. She said, we must learn Sinhala, and we achieved that. And 2 Muslim girls who were proficient in Sinhala towards the end of the course, they said that they have become trilingual. And the interesting finding was some Sinhala students, they remain bilingual. They came to the college as bilinguals. When they leave the college also, they remain bilingual. So here, here is the point that I identified my theoretical framework for the study. That is, Bodio says. So she says, one Muslim girl said, she's from Samanture. At times, madam, I felt like out of the zone. They all laughed, but I could not even laugh because I did not understand their joke, one girl said. So then at that time, I was reading about Pierre Bourdieu, and Bourdieu says, symbolic violence. It is like fish out of water. So I related that into my research as the theoretical framework, where the students face, some students face symbolic violence, because she could not laugh when others laughing in the dormitory because she did not understand others' jokes. So this study reveals that Tamil and Muslim students are well aware of the instrumental value of English and further concerned about its convertibility to cultural and economic capital, as Bourdieu says. So one girl said, wherever we travel, we meet people speak Sinhala, and if we talk them in Sinhala, then only they recognize us. So a sense of recognition you achieve through language. So these are my findings. 2 Muslim girls were proficient in Sinhala when they leave the college, and some girls perform the role as translators, Muslim and Tamils, but Sinhala girls remain bilingual, as I mentioned previously. So I will skip this. And conclusions, translanguaging is moving to just and fair language practices, which creates an inclusive space for everyone to shuttle between the languages. Multilingual speakers were moving through their linguistic repertoires, fulfilling their communicative demands, creating new identities. So I noticed that most of the students create new identities while going through the process of translanguaging. So this is the recommendation that I suggest The study also suggests that changes are required in current teacher education programs to raise awareness of modern pedagogy and practice. So I have a request from my audience, where if you are language teachers, please create just and fair learning environment for all your students. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kularatna. Now, one of the most interesting study right now, you concentrated your study on the language and trans languages in particular. And now this is the time for audience. If you have any questions, right, so you can clarify it with Ms. Kularatna right now. She's ready for answering your questions. Chandrika, you may have some questions. Okay, till they are getting ready for their questions, right? So, so when I was watching your presentation, I was wondering, now you were concentrating your study on Pastundata College, right?
Yes.
Right. Now, how did you, now yours is a qualitative research, and how did you manage to select your sample? I mean, there are many students, right? The first year, second year, third year, likewise. Yeah. And which year you chose and why? And how many students and what were the data collection? A bit about that.
I selected second year students because by that time they have been in, staying inside the college for 2 years, staying in dormitories, developing relationship with other ethnic groups, other communities. And by that time they may have changed that. So I selected purposive sample. I selected about 12 students. So I conducted classroom observations in ICT classes as well as in English classes. Apart from that, I use focus group discussions, use also semi-structured interviews, because according to their responses, sometimes I may have to change the next question. Therefore, I interviewed 2 lecturers, one from ICT course and one from English course. And I wanted to find out how they have been transforming their identities and positioning.
How was the composition of your sample? I mean, the gender-wise and ethnic?
Yeah, it includes all 3 nationalities. Muslims, okay. 5 Muslims.
Yeah, clear.
Yeah, Sinhalese and also Tamils.
Chandrika, it is your area. Okay. Now it is an interesting piece of research, right? So you have paid a great amount. I saw that you have read about Garcia's famous book of the language in the 21st century. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay, a good piece of research, and thank you very much. Now she is in a hurry to go to NEC, and
thank you so much, sir. Thank you, everybody.
Our next presentation is Sammani Kandambi about adopting the recommended Finnish education policies. It's not the one, right? Okay, you can collect your right. Now, I asked our Deputy Director General Ranjani Dhanawardena Madam to hand over her certificate because she is not in the position to come after that. Madam. This, okay, Sammani, now you can start.
Very good afternoon to all of you. First of all, I would like to thank you, the Research Department of NI, for giving me this opportunity to present my research findings today. My research topic is challenges of learning Chinese as a foreign language by secondary school learners in Sri Lanka. And this is the outline of my research. Let me move on to the introduction first. Mandarin Chinese is the most widely spoken language in the world. One Belt, One Road initiative concept calls to strengthen China-Sri Lankan bilateral relations considerably during last years. Proficiency in Chinese language is critical for business, trade, diplomacy, and for promoting international cooperation and mutual understanding in between China and Sri Lanka. Therefore, Chinese language has been identified as an outstanding foreign language based on the recognition of economic and social importance of China to Sri Lanka. In order to promote the Chinese language learning in Sri Lanka's general education system, Sri Lanka educationists have designed a Chinese language curriculum focusing on the successful achievements of local students in global world. In Sri Lanka, around 600 learners engage in learning Chinese in 50 schools island-wide. However, Sri Lankan foreign language learning in secondary schools faces the number of challenges in learning process. The problems of secondary education system of Sri Lanka has been major matter of concern for many years in the Sri Lankan education field. The Chinese as a foreign language learners also face considerable number of challenges. According to the previous research studies, the ideal foreign language learning classroom should be communicative, constructive, and collaborative. Therefore, this study attempts to identify the problems and facilitate the Chinese language teaching and learning in secondary education in order to enhance the active participation to the future economic growth of the country. And my research is based on three main objectives. First objective is to identify the characteristics of Chinese as a foreign language teaching and learning. Second objective would be identify the challenges of learning Chinese as a foreign language. And my final objective is...
Can you put in this presentation mode, please? I can't read it.
Sorry, sir?
Right. Right.
And my third objective is familiarize the effective strategies which can be helpful for the learners in order to overcome the challenges of learning Chinese language. Let's have a look into the methodology. The sample is accidental, comprising 98 self-selected learners who are learning Chinese in schools from Western and Northwestern provinces, and 10 Chinese language teachers from selected schools. In this study, there are two instruments were utilized. The first is a survey-based questionnaire to investigate challenges from the perspectives of students and teachers. A survey-based questionnaire are constructed with 5-point Likert scales and open-ended questions, which cover the study's objectives. The questionnaire with 3 parts were developed for the survey study. The first part of the questionnaire related to the demographic information of the participants. The second part of the questionnaire comprised on the teachers and students' perceptions about Chinese as a foreign language education. And the third part is about their perceived difficulties related to the area of curriculum, teaching process, resources, and classroom environment. The questionnaire was designed via Google Forms and distributed among students and teachers using WhatsApp groups. Then the interview was carried out for the teachers during school visits, and we assumed to collect suggestions on overcoming challenges on Chinese language learning. The data gathered from the questionnaire and interviews were analyzed descriptively by calculating the percentage.
This logo karan. Right. Good.
Let me move on to the results of the research next. In the given table, we can see that the majority of teachers' teaching experience is below 5 years. According to the majority of students' point of view, the most challenging part of Chinese as a foreign language is the resources, as they lack suitable text materials and other multimedia resources at classroom. The second most problematic thing is the syllabus, as they think it does not cater authentic learning experiences. A considerable amount of students also responded, teaching methods are not interesting enough to pursue Chinese as foreign language learning. With regard to the learning materials, the majority of learners responded that the content in their learning material is not interesting enough. 27% of students also complained that the materials are teacher-centered as they lack student engagement activities. 19% of students also stated that there is a mismatch in between the learning contents and their learning needs. We also investigated about the teachers' suggestions against the existing issues. The data revealed that the majority of teachers suggested to revise the teaching and learning materials aligning with the contemporary students' needs and also matching with the world of work. And 60% of teachers have suggested to develop school-level infrastructure facilities. Further, according to the considerable number of teachers, trainings on updated foreign language teaching techniques and a foreign language framework is also much needed. Discussion. The results revealed that the learning problems are not only limited to the academic problems, but also include administrative issues. But in this study, we give priority to the academic issues as we need to identify them and find solutions as we are in the middle of curriculum reforms at NIE. The data has been revealed that the existing Chinese language syllabus does not cater students' learning needs. The learners lack authentic learning experience within the curriculum. For example, it does not enhance students' motivation and interest towards learning through plenty of activities on speaking, reading, writing, listening, as well as intercultural communication. At the same time, teachers most of the time focus only on developing learners' reading and writing skills, and no sufficient attention is being paid to develop listening and speaking skills based on authentic context. Also, the learners have negative attitudes towards the text materials as they lack real-life situations and contents. More importantly, the Chinese textbooks currently used do not focus on enhancing students' intercultural knowledge and skills, which are essential for the effective communication. In addition to that, the activities on text materials are very typical and they do not cater any opportunity to enhance students' collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, and communication skills. The data also indicated that the evaluation system has one of the most challenging part. The current evaluation system only evaluates learners' skills on reading and writing, and it lacks practical evaluation process. At the same time, the teacher do not focus on formative assessments to evaluate students' continuous learning process. Further, the teachers rarely focused on enabling communication and also on enhancing the students' listening and speaking skills in classroom by utilizing interesting teaching approaches such as multimedia method, communicative approach, and interactive method. The teachers do not focus on activity-based teaching in order to enhance the active participation of the learner towards Chinese learning. As a result, the students also lack enjoyment while engaging in peer activities, group activities, or game-based foreign language learning. By concluding my presentation, I would like to brief the research and put forward some recommendations. The study tried to investigate on the various problems related to teaching approaches, teaching content, and teaching and learning materials existing teaching Chinese as a foreign language in secondary schools. The findings of the study indicated that a majority of the teachers are not professionally qualified enough and they are not well trained with newly developed teaching methods and approaches. The foreign language classroom is very typically teacher-centered. This study has shown that the Chinese as foreign language classroom needs some positive changes based on both theories and practices in 21st century. Ehrman in 2003 stated that students need the opportunity to learn in their preferred styles to enable them to learn as much as possible. Therefore, the teachers engaged in Chinese teaching in schools should focus on how to increase the motivation of foreign language learners. Also should focus on developing their creativeness in learning a foreign language. The teachers are also advised to use a variety of teaching methods to stimulate the learner. In addition, the teacher should focus on teaching materials in terms of enabling Chinese language communication. It should also be given importance to improving students' Chinese language receptive and productive skills via audiovisual materials, encourage them to learn through web, YouTube, and other online materials in order to uplift the Chinese language education. It is also suggested that there is a necessity to maintain a well-equipped foreign language environment with authentic teaching and learning materials as a solution for majority of the problems. It should be focused on classrooms that enable practice like language laboratories in order to tailor for students' expectations, supply particular learning environments. Also, it is suggested that the necessary curriculum reforms should be done in order to situate Chinese teaching and learning within an appropriate cross-cultural frame and train the teachers and enhance their pedagogical skills accordingly. According to one's own instructional practices through classroom-based investigations, teachers should also actively contribute to the research endeavor and continuously change practices based on findings in foreign language classroom. And these are my references. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Excellent time management, Samani. You did it really well and another good piece of research. And now, audience, if you have any questions regarding her research, it is time for you. You can ask any questions that someone is ready for answers. Yeah, Professor.
I just want to know why you are recommending authentic materials.
Yes, sir, I'm recommending authentic materials because the text materials now we can see in the today's classroom is not at all authentic, because all the text materials what they have now is from the translation. They are the translation versions of the other foreign countries, not actually suitable for the Sri Lankan context. At the same time, there are some text materials like resource books and textbooks.
I prefer to beg your pardon. What do you mean by authentic materials?
Authentic materials. That means when learning a foreign language, the content of the material should be authentic. That means it should be suitable for the Sri Lankan context. For example,
I think you are misfiring, ma'am.
uh,
Authentic materials means newspapers and
Yes,
media
of
that is
course.
used in the Chinese news. So it is more Chinese than what you get for our students.
yes,
So how do you think, don't you think that you are contradicting yourself? You say that, you know, the news items,
yes,
newspapers, that will be more related to Chinese culture, Chinese heritage than to Sri Lankans.
yes.
Now, this is the first, the first question that we have been laying, isn't it? That things are more far removed from our context.
Yes, at the same time, the magazines, which we can refer from the internet. Yes, I agree with you, sir.
Any other questions from the audience? Somebody, I have a methodological questions now. I understood that yours is the purposive sampling, right?
Yes.
You selected some purposively accidental sampling. Okay. But when I was going through your data collection techniques, it revealed that 5-point Likert some quantitative way. It's a contradiction. So why is it that, and can you explain it why?
Yes, sir. I mean, quantitative, yes, questionnaires are basically quantitative data. And also I conducted the interviews to collect the qualitative data.
It was all because you didn't clearly mention about your design, right? If you made it right now, that problem would not have been raised.
Yeah. For example, do you think learning Chinese is interesting?
No,
So
I
it's
mean-
based on 5-point Likert scale. Very
No,
good.
I mean 5-point Likert scale in the sense that you are trying to quantify the data. I mean, you are in the quantitative research, right? And then your sampling technique is not aligned with that. That is
Mhm.
qualitative, right? So there is a mismatch.
You mean there's a mismatch
Yeah,
in between?
yeah.
Yeah, I should consider about that.
Okay, if there are no any other questions, please give us a would help me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next presentation. This one. The next presentation is J.S. Rohan Savarimuttu, NS. There's a list of presenters, right? Jayasundara, KGLANS, Javadhan and all. Right, okay. This make it pain. All right.
So good evening to all. So my today's title is based on this the conference theme, Education Reforms Towards Sustainable Peace and National Development. Is it a workable reality or an unfulfilling dream? Now, when I saw the title, I was just thinking that it was almost related to higher education. But when I just came here from the morning, I just came to realize that most of you were presenting with regard to school education. Therefore, let me begin with that. Being an authority in English language teaching, linguistics, English literature, I find few fault lines that this NIE has to address in order to make Sri Lanka a country with potentials. Number one, we have forgotten that English is a second language. If we look at our school textbooks, I can bet we have forgotten that English is a second language because we are copying things from Prentice Hall, which is used in the US for the US school kids, for whom English is their first language. Well, we have removed lessons. For if something is written by Robert Frost, we have put a Sri Lankan writer, an English writer. But that doesn't mean once you make it, with Sri Lankan writing in the textbook, that doesn't mean that it will suit us. The same exercises, the same methodology, even the style, even the format is ditto same. If you do not agree with me, you can turn to Prentice Hall textbooks, the gold level, silver level, platinum level, and see it for yourself. This is the first mistake that we have made in our country. English has become unattainable because of people like us. We have really messed up. So I really plead to people over here to consider into this matter, to recommend the government in order to look into this so that we reformulate our English textbooks. The second thing, in schools, let's not take Colombo. Colombo is an exception. Take other schools in other places. English is not even taught. Why? Because you don't ask whatever is taught in the exam. So teaching becomes futile. For example, we ask questions which we even do not dare to ask while teaching our mother tongue. Untaught poetry is asked for English exams. Now, if you are Tamil speaking, now you teach 4 or 5 Tirukkural. Can you ask a Tirukkural that you have not taught your student? Or if there is a Sinhala poetry, you teach them. Then you ask some other Sinhala poem that you have not taught. Will they be able to understand? Will they be able to write? I don't think so. So forgetting that English is a second language, we are just blindly following the Britishers or the Americans in testing our own children. And we fail them, we demoralize them. So these are 2 things that I wanted to address. Number 1, textbooks. Number 1, testing tools. Both are inappropriate. When both these things are inappropriate, whatever research we are going to do on second language, we may say they love English, they like to swim in English, everything is a futile effort. Now, let me go to my own presentation with regard to higher education. So these kids come for higher education into universities and campuses, and still it is futile. Now, you should know about the recent developments in education, from learner-centric facilitation, which started with pedagogy, moved to andragogy and pedagogy. From task-based teaching, we went into task-based learning. From self-directed learning, we have gone into self-determined learning. When I mean we, not in Sri Lanka, outside. From marks, in Sri Lanka, we have moved to grades. And we are using credit system for assessing student work and their effort. I don't know how many of us have understood this. But the world has moved from credit system into choice-based credit system. Where are we? For example, are we really learner-centric? This is my question. Now, very recently, we have been listening a lot of things. Employability. Anyone who is educated should be able to be employed. Now, learner has to become a self-determined learner. But then, education is not to produce just workforce. It is not to just fulfill the labor markets. It is not for enslavement. It is not to serve Mammon, the god of money. Education has to liberate. It has to emancipate. It has to enlighten. It has to push you towards achieving wholeness, apart from earning your bread and butter. But are we giving this education? This is a big question that all of us have to ask. Are our students self-determined learners? We had COVID pandemic. We did teach through Zoom. We had LMS. So many resources were there, but everything became a failure.
Excellent. You had 3 more minutes.
3 more minutes. Okay, sir. So this is because we did not make our students self-determined. So when the answer is no for all these things, how can there be peace and national development? Now, I will just sum up. Universities should be truly autonomy. They should have all these 4 elements. Now, are they really with us? Don't you think most of the items are missing? And when most of these items are missing, how can we be so strong in research and development? Now, the policymakers, without understanding, they pull the strings and they say that we have to do research and development. We have to commercialize our products. We can't, because we don't have autonomy. So, in my campus, I know everywhere it's the same. We handle our hour for 2 hours, am I right? When the listening span is only for 30 minutes, When you put a timetable for 2 hours at a stretch, how can you call it learner-centric? You say that 1 credit equals to 15 hours. We have a timetable Monday to Friday, am I right? Still, we are following the school system. We should change. We should get day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, the day order system. Suppose, let's say, if day 1, you had a POYA. Next week, that day 1 will be coming there the next day. Suppose if it is Monday a POYA, next Monday someone dies, another Monday you have some other function. And if all the Mondays are filled with laboratories or some important class, it goes missing. But with a day order system, that never happens. So we should look outside Sri Lanka on to the recent developments on what is going on. We need to schedule our class hours from 45 to 50 minutes, not for 2 hours. We need to have 90 working days in a semester. Now, students, they are making so much of trouble because they have got nothing to do. They don't have any load to carry. So we should have 90 hours. We should teach from 8 to 1 or 1:30. After that, leave the students free so that they can be employed, they can do something on their own. And this is a calculation which I have put. So if you are interested, it'll be here. And, if we have to develop our higher educational sector, these are the yardsticks which we have to follow. We are running undergraduate degree programs and we want to do something in research. Highly impossible. They say a professor will only teach for some few hours, but what is he teaching? He is teaching undergraduates. Then how can that be? That's not justice. The hours have to be fixed on whatever you are handling. If it is UG, 1 hour is equal to 1 hour. If it is PG, 1 hour is equal to 1.5 hours. If it is MPhil, 1 hour is equal to 2 hours. So, if these system changes are done in a maximum of 5 years, we can transform Sri Lanka. We can transform the Sri Lankan educational system. We can bring peace. We can bring harmony. We can bring national development. Now, one thing I want to address, the government of Sri Lanka thinks that it has to give job to all whom it educates. Now, this is a very false belief. Someone has to tell them, please stop believing that. We will educate all, but for all the jobs, we will need competitive exams. So anyone who clears the competitive exams, let it be a post of a peon, a clerk, an MA, anything, even lecturership, let them step in. So unless these things are not made, where are we going to? Still, our things are still following a same, a concentric circle. We need to divide medical sciences, engineering, and arts and science into separate groups controlled by separate bodies. UGC can be supervising it, that's it. UGC shouldn't directly involve itself. It should be a body that really guarantees. So, this is what I said about solving the unemployment. So I believe if we can do these reforms, very, very basic reforms, that will reform everything else. Now, I have done this talk because I've been teaching in many countries for the past 20 years, and I know the system. I know how timetable is put. I know what workload is. Like we say 1 hour, am I right? We think 1 hour is 60 minutes. No, 1 hour, academic 1 hour is equal to 45 minutes. Academic week, Monday to Friday, that is not one academic week. Academic week means day 1 to day 6. There is no Monday to Friday. So these are things that we need really to look into. And if we can do something, if we can ask the policymakers to really think about it, I think Sri Lanka will truly become a developed nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rohan. Savarimuthu, right? Talking now, we should think about it now. We are in the process of curriculum reforms, right? Right now, we are preparing for the pilot in next year, and hopefully in 2024, the system will be implementing the new curriculum reforms. These ideas put forward by you really appreciated, right? So it seems that you need more time to talk about it, right? Interesting points were raised. Right now, I have one questions to ask since they are getting ready. Better, if you have any questions, audience, you may ask that before I'm asking my question. Okay, Mr. Rohan Savarimuthu, now you were making very strong claims that the textbooks and the, assessment systems are not aligned with the what you required. Am I right?
Yeah.
Right. On what ground, what evidence do you have to say such a strong claim? Have you got any research evidence or what are they?
Simple, sir. If you take up a book that is being prescribed in the US or in England, that is the same thing that we are using for English over here. We are not using such methodology even to teach Tamil and Singalam. It's evident. And you look at the question paper that we frame, my God, it's too tough because we are following the same yardsticks that are held for a first language learner. I was teaching an AL kid for English literature, and she showed me a question. Write an essay if you were the daughter of Shakespeare. My God, that's a PhD thesis. And how can you ask that from an AL kid? Unimaginable. So I know the professors, few of them, who have been constructing syllabus and who are, doing it. But then I find the biggest loophole is that school teachers are not involved into this. It is just the elite professors who have forgotten the reality of our rural Sri Lanka are involved. And that is my argument, sir. So,
yeah, actually, I wanted to know whether there were any, published literature, I mean, with some years and all, and that's what I was thinking about.
No,
Right?
Sir,
yeah.
With regard to this, our students, we have done research, and our students, they have even submitted their thesis. So this was the thing that I discovered, and I asked the students to continue their research on it. So this is evident.
Yeah.
Like I'm not here to just put a research or something like that. I'm here pleading that we should do something.
Yeah, really.
Because it is right there in front of our eyes.
Really, we appreciate your ideas at a time. So when we are ready for the curriculum reforms, your ideas are really appreciated, right? If any questions are to be asked from the Dr. Rohan Savarimuthu, it is this time for you. Yeah. So I don't come here and ask. Maslow's theory.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Ma'am, I beg to differ. If we are just going to teach aiming at fulfilling the basic needs, I tell you, we will not even reach that. As teachers, we know that students are just 50% of what we are. So it is a gradual decline. And only if we as teachers aim at the sky, only if we as teachers aim at true liberation, true emancipation, job, money, these are simple things, they'll just come. I want to tell you something from my personal life. I was working as a PA to a very great person who was almost next to Arabindo in India. And one day he had come on a train. Almost some 100 people had got him tickets. So he had to choose. It was like choose the best answer. He just took a ticket and he jumped into the train. And that person who had taken the ticket, thinking he was a senior citizen, he had put him as 60 plus or something. But he was just 59. But when the ticket collector came, he said, what is your age? He said, I'm 59. Then that fellow caught him without knowing that he was a very great person. And at the end, the ticket collector, I mean the ticket checker in the train, had to ask forgiveness because this person was the inquiry commissioner of Supreme Court of India. But then, when I asked him, why were you so careless? He said, Rohan, don't run after money. You do the right thing, money will come after you. So this is something that we have to learn from great people. Great people never sought after money. They never sought after food. When you do the right thing, things will come after you. Now, if we are teaching our kids to be more mammonic, I mean, to serve the god of money, then you have a lot of crimes. You have all the things that we are, witnessing now. In fact, in those days when MBBS was being taught, you won't believe, they were taught one book written by Bertrand Russell on the philosophy of science, MBBS doctors. And those days doctors, they were real doctors. They were not for money. But what about nowadays? What happened to the kindness? What happened to the humane nature? Everything is gone because we have placed money and wealth as number one. So this is where we misdirect, not ourselves, but also everyone. And especially this management theory, it is very, very dangerous. And we have to really, sometimes stop, put a full stop to it. For example, you may talk about Maslow, you may talk about that, this and everything. But the biggest management epitome is the Roman Catholic Church that has been running for 2000 years without changing anything. There is no change in anything in the Roman Catholic Church. Biggest management. They don't follow Maslow. They don't follow all those theories. No. These theories are there just to earn money. That's it. Thank you. Anything else?
I really appreciate your ideas, Dr. Rohan, and I wish I had a sufficient time to have to discussion with you. And while inviting you for a discussion with the Department of Research, I give our, thanks, a lot of thanks for coming here and delivering this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Our next presentation is going to be MS Priyanti.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am M.S. Priyanti, lecturer, Teacher Education Service from Teacher Center, Sri Jayawardhanapura. My topic is how teacher education programs affect the professional development of graduate teachers. Here, only teacher professional development programs implemented through Teacher Professional Development Center were used for the research. There is very little previous research on professional development programs conducted by these teacher professional development centers. It is very important to conduct a formal study of the professional development programs run by these centers that train graduate teachers. There are two main methods of training teachers for professional development under the Ministry of Education. The 19 National College of Education are primarily involved in pre-service teacher training. Apart from this, the same training is also provided by the universities of Sri Lanka. The next important training is the training given to the teachers who are in the teaching profession. They are under the Ministry of Education, the Region Education Office and Teacher Professional Development Centers are working directly. Let's see what programs are running from these centers. Teachers Professional Development Centers were earlier known as teacher centers. It is the task of the teacher centers implement these programs for graduate teachers according to the center manual for that. At present, according to the 2015 teacher circular, circulars are conducting modular programs. Further training is provided for graduate teachers required under the Provincial Education Department. My studies, the objectives are first, identify programs for graduate teachers run by Teacher Professional Development Centers. Look at how these programs are working. Next, identify the strength and weakness of the programs. Next, proposing new professional development opportunities for graduate teachers that can be implemented by the Teacher Professional Development Centers. The main objectives of this research were identify the strength and weakness of the exciting professional development programs for teachers. Methodology. The sample study 50 teachers of the year 2022 who were involved in graduate teachers professional development programs through Professional Development Centers, Sri Jayawardhanapura, Sri Lanka. Method, qualitative research method and data collecting according to the qualitative research approach was followed by collecting data through interviews with 50 teachers involved in teacher professional development programs of 2022. Data collection was done from interviews and informal interviews. Next, data collection tools were formal and informal interviews, reports, notes, tapes and text messages like that. According to the situation in this country, there were opportunities to collect data through the online methods. But some clarifications, participatory interviews were also conducted. Let's analyze the data obtained here. According to the main objectives of the research, the data they provide about the nature of professional development programs for graduate teachers is as follows. According to the data, it is clear that the majority of graduate teachers are willing to take their professional development opportunities. Next, this section shows the awareness of the teacher regarding the programs implemented through this center. It started more people get the information needed for their professional development from the module programs. It is clear from this diagram that the implementation of the professional development programs in addition to module programs is low. Next, let's look at the finding of this research. Majority of graduate teachers prefer to enhance their professional development through teacher professional development centers. On the other hand, they started that these programs should be implemented continuously. This can lead to an improvement in education. And according to this study, it was found that the professional development programs of graduate teachers should change according to the change in educational policies. Some suggestions are made according to this education, implementing programs to enhance the professional development of graduate teachers before they enter the service. As the exciting programs are not enough, more programs should be implemented. Also, these programs should be prepared in relation to exiting education framework. In the end, I have formalized the exiting programs for graduate teachers according to this study, and those programs should be implemented with innovation. The development of student depend of the ability of teachers who have received professional development. These are my references. So my research presentation is over. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Priyanti. You have big applause. And now if you have any questions, Priyanti is ready to answer your questions right now. The topic is interesting, and it was conducted in pre-service teacher education and
Yes.
both in-service teacher education conducted by the teacher centers.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. If you have any questions to ask, please ask from her. Saminder, you're a teacher educator? Kailas. Okay, now when I was watching your presentation, Priyanti,
Yes, sir.
I was wondering now, you said 50 teachers.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, that's
50
why I am.
teachers you were interviewing. I was wondering, I know interviewing 5 or 6 teachers is a difficult task,
Yeah.
right? How did you manage to interview 50 teachers? How did you select them? And
Yes,
what were the data collection techniques? And how did you manage to analyze those heaps and heaps of data sets? How long it took?
yeah. So I took them from a WhatsApp group. I prepared a WhatsApp group according to our teacher center programs book. They are attended for so many teachers for these programs, and I selected some teachers from that group.
Priyanti, now when we are doing a research, we are we have particular questions that is to be answered by doing a research, right?
Yeah.
So then we are designing our research. So this is how it should be. And at the first time, so we are designing it. And then only we are conducting it, right? Now,
Yeah.
at the beginning of your research, didn't you think that these are the questions that are to be answered? And so this is how I am designing my research. Since this is a qualitative research and I should limit to the limited number of sample, it can be managed, right? I think these suggestions and I think you can think of it and when you are conducting your further research, right? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Now, our next presentation is going to be conducted by three young researchers, T. Senanayaka, NDIS, and E. Veerakon. Please come here.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Nathalie Dias, an undergraduate of General Sir John Kotharavala Defence University. My other co-authors are Tarushima Senanayaka and Ethmi Veerakon. Today, I'm here to present our research paper, which the topic is on teaching writing using process of approach in a blended learning environment. So let me talk about the background first of all. The most prominent three topics which we have explained throughout the research paper are blended learning, process approach, and flipped learning. And also we have discussed how process approach has worked with blended learning and flipped learning. What is blended learning? Blended learning is a combination of traditional face-to-face learning and distance learning via the internet. So there are many advantages of using blended learning in education. The most fundamental benefit is it makes technology-based instructional resources easily accessible. And also it offers students a flexible environment, a flexible way to use resources in an active learning environment. And also it gives teachers the time to work with students in maybe in one-on-one or in small groups. One-on-one means one student can have one teacher, and also small groups can, each small group can have one teacher. Next, what is flipped learning? Flipped learning is a part of blended learning. So flipped learning is a methodology that helps teachers to prioritize active learning during the class time by assigning students presentations, lecture materials to be viewed out of the classroom, maybe at home or any other out of the classroom. So there is a way of how learners in a flipped classroom work. Learners prepare for the class prior to the lesson using online platforms. So they gather information by maybe watching videos or surfing the internet. So it can happen individually or collaboratively. And then they apply, discuss, use what they have learned when they participate in the face-to-face classroom. As I said earlier, also flipped classroom is one of the blended learning methods. Now let's before talking about process approach, I must say that there are two main approaches of teaching writing. First one is genre approach and the other one is process approach. So process approach is an approach to teaching writing that allows the teacher and the students to go through the process of producing the text together. So here there are 8 main steps. First one is brainstorming, then generating ideas, categorizing information, planning, writing drafts, receiving feedback, editing, and then finally producing the final product. And also here, the students have a chance to think about what they are going to write and what they are going to produce, revise, edit, and give feedback on their work before planning and before coming up with the final version of their production. And here, the teacher acts as a facilitator because teacher only gives the writing topic to the students, but the students have to work on their own, maybe individually or collaboratively. And the teacher only get involved for the correction and for the feedback session, but learners do their production on their own. So there are some online platforms that teachers use to practice writing through process approach in a flipped environment. Some of them are Padlet, Mockflow, Kahoot, WhatsApp, Zoom, Google Meets, Teams, Edmodo, and LMS. So I must say that Padlet, even we at our university, we use it for to practice teaching writing, to practice writing. And also, I think LMS or Learning Management System is one of the prominent ways that prominent platforms that university students use. Next, if I say how process writing in a blended learning environment is done, we can practice the first 3 steps of the process approach. Brainstorming, generating ideas, planning in the online phase. There, the learners can work online, as I said earlier, brainstorming, generating ideas, and planning. So teachers design Padlet tasks, quizzes, short answer questionnaires, and from those things, learners can collect information and brainstorm ideas. So for the physical in the physical classroom, the learners write the draft and then receive feedback, and according to the feedback they edit, and then only they produce the final product. So there the learners are led to work individually when preparing themselves for the writing task. And also I must say that they are already aware about the topic that they are going to face in the physical classroom. Teaching writing in a blended learning environment through process approach can improve learner autonomy, critical thinking ability, researching skills, analytical ability. So as I said earlier, the learners maybe they don't know what they are going to do in the physical classroom. So that's why the teacher practices something before the classroom. So they might not know that this happens like this or this happens like this, but they work on themselves and they understand, okay, this happens like this, and this thing happens like this. So there they improve their learner autonomy, and then the critical thinking ability equally. And also, as I said earlier, they surf the internet because they don't know some points. So they surf the internet, and they'll improve their researching skills. So if we search for something in the internet, thousands of results appear. So we can't take all of them for our work. So we have to analyze them and we have to organize them. So the students tend to improve their analytical ability through that. The objective of our research paper is to understand whether the features of process approach to teach writing in a blended learning environment are included in the current general English textbooks used in junior secondary grades from 6 to 11 in Sri Lanka. For the methodology part, we chose the pupils book of grade 7 students, workbook of grade 7 students, and the teacher's guide of grade 7 students. And also, as the data collection method or instruments, we did a content analysis and a checklist and keyword searches were the instruments. For the content analysis part, the first unit of grade 7 pupils book, the first unit of grade 7 workbook, and competency 7 of teacher's guide were chosen. Then from those, they have followed the 8 steps that I said earlier, brainstorming and so on. Whether they have followed those 8 steps.
7 minutes.
Oh,
7 minutes.
Okay. 8 steps of process approach. And then after that, we checked if any instructions on using process writing or blended learning were included in the teacher's guide. So according to what we have done, we found out that that there were no any writing activity which follows the process approach, and also no instructions on blended teaching or learning, and even no instructions on process approach or genre approach in the teacher's guide. As the conclusion part, I would like to add the suggestions that the teacher should be instructed properly on which approach they should follow, namely genre or else the process approach when teaching writing for the students. And also any suggestions that which parts should be done in the online session and which parts should be done in the physical session, the teacher should be suggested. So then only the teachers will follow what to do. So I would like to add that suggestion also. And we found out not all, but some of the workbook activities were not linked with the pupils' book lessons. So I would like to tell that it will be better if the designers can link the pupils' book with the workbook, and also when designing, design based on either on the process approach or genre approach to writing. These are the references we have done. You can go through this. So we have come to the end of our presentation. Thank you for lending your valuable time. Thank you.
It reminds me of the yesterday, right now, when Dr. Darshana was talking now, he emphasized the fact that young researchers should bring into the this kind of stage, right? Now, this is one of the good example. Now, these three researchers and the others are other presenters are also there in the other room, right?
Yes.
Now they should come to the front, and they are, beginning blooming researchers, and once again give them a big hand, right? And regarding your presentation, Tarushi, I see that some of the areas are okay and fine with the research knowledge. And before my comments, I think if any of you can give her some suggestions how she should work in her further research. And Mr. Rohan, if you can add something, it is really appreciated.
What you have really done as a team is so marvelous.
Thank you, sir.
And it's nice. But then with regard to writing skills and teaching them, it is a very good, you have to be very creative as a teacher. And you also have to make your students to be more creative. So I would suggest that whatever you have done is good. But then if you can do further readings on what is being practiced right now, I think that will help you a lot. So one thing that I find with our present researchers is that their reading is very, very minimum, and they talk too much. So this is one of the things that I would advise you. And moreover, whatever you have done is really very good. But the thing is, like, with regard to teaching writing skills, there is a very good methodology that is being followed by the international schools. I don't mean international schools in Sri Lanka, because we don't have any such schools, provided we use the international syllabus, but we are not truly international. So I'm referring to a school called IRSE, Kodaikanal International School, where all the students are Europeans or Americans or Australians, even the teachers. The school is only there in India, but everyone is from outside. And there the teaching is really something very marvelous and different with regard to writing, which they start at 5th grade. The students are allowed to take topics on whatever they like. For example, it can be on an actor, it can be on Mother Teresa, it can be on a politician, on a cricketer, anyone. And they are asked to collect newspaper cuttings, articles, things from the internet everywhere. And then they are asked to read, underline all the important lines which they think is very vital to them. Then again, take those lines, write them on a piece of paper, rearrange them in a logical order, then again put them into paragraphs. And for each word, these students have to go to Routledge's International Thesaurus, okay, which most of us don't know even how to refer. And they are supposed to select all the synonyms, write meaning for all the synonyms, then select the apt synonym that is for each word and replace it. And then rewrite the entire sentence with whatever the new synonym that they have chosen. And then they, at the end, they have to convert the entire passage into a single tense. I mean, the entire essay. So at the end, you get a new essay that is totally different from what they had read. So this is how writing is usually taught at the beginning level. Now, even at campus, I tried this. It was very successful, but my students found it very tiring. And but anyway, like there are things which is very hard to put into quantitative research. So thank you. You have done a good job.
Okay, Rohan, thank you very much. Kailas, do you?
Yeah, it's a great job you did, but only you did one competencies, analyze the whole book.
No, sir, as we had a limited time, so we just like we did keyword search, and then we chose competency 7 from teacher's guide.
7 from teacher guide, full in the textbook, so only
No,
Both,
competency 7
teach.
from the teacher's guide, and then the first unit of the workbook and the pupils book.
first unit only.
First unit.
Yes.
That what kind of writing method they are used in there?
There was no any order, but I found out that they should follow at the end of those lessons. They should do like describing animals and describing people. They will be able to do those things, but they have not followed any process approach, the steps of the process approach, or else the genre approach. But we only focus on process approach.
Is it necessary to follow our that according to the age limit, whether we should follow these approaches, or is there any reference in this age group we need to follow this?
I think my group member is ready to answer sir's question. Yes.
Just back side.
So the thing is, internationally, they use process approach or genre approaches for their textbooks. So we were also thinking about if there is no any structure, particular structure there, so we should go for something. So with the time frame we had, we go for process approach, and with the three of us experience, we thought that going for genre approach, like it's sort of like scanning and analyzing a lot of sample writing and do the
Final
product.
product.
But the thing is, if it happens in Sri Lankan context, maybe students will be like copy pasting. So we thought it's better if there is a steps to follow for the students so they can understand what they are doing. So that's why we think of going for the process approach. Thank you.
Sammani, you need to ask something. You are also language expert, right? Already, yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, then Anaka, thank you very much once again, and be a good researcher in the years to come. Okay. Okay, now today's session is final. It's the final presentation. Now I think under today's evening session, so though we have the limited number of audience, right? So we were concentrating mainly four main areas. The first presentation was trans-languaging, and then we were talking, somebody presented a Chinese language one. Educational reforms, right, Rohan, right, really appreciated. And the teacher education, finally. Sena Nayak, she was again, this is somewhat, language-oriented one. But anyway, we were made, presentations. We have put it in, written form. The things we can't remember, the things are here, it is written. So I think these two sessions today and two sessions yesterday, covering almost 60 presentations, created a huge knowledge, which will be very important in the curriculum reform process, which we are undertaking right now. And thank you very much. And please get ready for the this certificate awards. I kindly announce DDG. Our Reverend Sir, Media Director, Sir, to hand over the certificates to the presenters. You can name them, shall I? Yeah. Please, the first presenter, I would call upon, what is the name? J.S. Rohan Savarimutu.
Next presenter, Mrs. M.A.S. Priyanti. Next presenter, Miss T.J. Nanayak. Next presenter, U. Kandambi. Okay, we are ending today's session, and thank you for participating, and have a nice day for all of you.